Good morning. We are back with our second superintendent sit down, and in the words of you, Dr. White, we're podcasting.
That's it.
We're
We're excited. It's just another great day in the Floyd County School System.
Yes, it is, and we are so happy to be here at the CCA using their beautiful facility in order to do this, to speak to our wonderful staff members in Floyd County Schools. So really, before we get into it, let's just kind of talk about some of the great things going on right now in our school system.
Wow, there are so many good things going on right now. We have construction projects going on at Armurchie High School, new field house, new football field, new track, new concession stand. Same thing at Coosa High School, new track, new field house. Their concession's part of it, but also looking at the whole facility there as far as athletics go at Coosa High School. We just finished up the fields at Pepperell and Model. And so we're working on so many things in our school system. It's just really exciting time for us. So that's just part of it. Not all the other things that we have are those kind of big, huge projects, but we have other things going on inside our schools. Back in the summer, of course, we had signs put up, digital signs in elementary schools. We also worked on our playgrounds, replaced playground equipment, and also the awnings that went into our elementary schools. So there's just a lot of great things going on. I guess the most exciting thing for me this last week is that we had a student accepted to Stanford University on a full scholarship, and also Duke University on a full scholarship. So I'm very proud of those two young ladies.
Awesome stuff, and we've also had some great, since the last time we've podcast, success, our one-act success all across the district, and then obviously Coosa High School was runner-up in the state in one act.
Yes, good stuff.
Our competition cheerleaders all placed in the top 10, with Armurchie being runner-up. Model High School made it to the Final Four in volleyball, and we have all of our chorus and band concerts going on for our winter shows right now. So
yes, and then of course we're coming up on Christmas holidays.
Yes.
The excitement is throughout our school system. We have Christmas trees up, we have our Christmas concerts, and all those things we do this time of year. So very exciting time in the Floyd County School System.
It is. It has been really extra fun going into the schools this last couple weeks and seeing all the decorations. So let's just get right into it.
Sure.
Before we get started, I really want to kind of talk to everyone about some recent progress with our strategic plan, which is something that has been in the works for over a year now, with several committees and feedback and meetings. And it was officially implementing and passed back at the end of October. So we have our strategic plan that we will begin working towards. And the five main areas of focus in that strategic plan were our workforce, retention of teachers and staff members, academics, our culture and climate, and our communication and engagement as a district. So everything that Dr. White and our school district does is making sure we align with that, because it's all important for our students and our stakeholders, and we will just kind of keep that in mind, as those are five huge areas of focus that we want to do in order to continue our success. So
yes, most definitely.
Off of that, I have a few academic questions from our teachers. The first one is integrating AI into the classroom. Is there an update on that?
Yes. Matt DeBorg and Selena Arrington are working on implementing a plan for our school system that they will present Monday at our board meeting. And they have researched this situation, and to be honest with you, they are a whole lot more knowledgeable about that than I am. And we are looking at ways we can use that in the classroom and opening up AI and some of these websites for our teachers. We're going to start with teachers, and then it will expand from that perspective as far as students being able to use it. But that plan will be shared Monday at our school board meeting.
Awesome. Great improvement there. Novels in ELA classrooms. Obviously, I'm a book nerd, so I love using novels. I think there was a little bit of confusion and miscommunication. So can we just clarify the use of novels in ELA, specifically when teaching standards? I know obviously that should not be the only resource to teach an ELA standard.
Right.
But can they be used in instruction?
Yes, of course. We want to continue to use novels. I think that's a part of our literature program, and teaching our students how to read and use valuable reading resources through our literature. So yes, those most definitely can be used, and it's just a structure and how they're used. So that might be some sort of little miscommunication
Okay.
that we're not going to read novels, because we are going to read
Right.
novels.
Okay. And then speaking of our instructional model and going back to our strategic plan, I know there's been a lot of time and effort and planning into how we are doing things academically
Yes.
with instruction, and lots of success happening in the classrooms. I know Mr. Parker and his staff are always bragging on our teachers and what they're seeing in classrooms, and just how they are using this framework to continue to guide our students. But one question that's come up is the amount of testing that we do in our classrooms. I know it is required by the state of Georgia, but we do use a lot of testing in classrooms. Can we
Yes, we
talk a
do.
little bit about that and why that is?
Well, we are mandated to use certain forms of testing, and especially with the new literacy law, we're going to have to use designated testing formats to identify students who have reading disabilities or problems with reading. But we will continue to look at what we're using and how we use that as far as formative assessment and those kind of things. But if there are ways that we can eliminate testing, we will certainly consider that too.
Yeah, Mr. Parker, when he spoke to our teacher advisory yesterday on that, he did mention that they are open and they're constantly looking at changing the pacing guides
Yes.
based off what work and doesn't work, what the test results show. So they are used for things like that. And to your point, identifying certain populations like EIP, using the MAP assessments
Yes,
there.
we have to use those. Great point, a real good point. So there are things that we will look at and consider and do as much as we can to reduce it. But in the long run, we're going to have testing, and unfortunately, we're going to have to do that. And I understand from a teacher's perspective that takes up instructional time, but those are things that we're required to do.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that information. So kind of changing gears a little bit, I know we talked last time about that was really recent from the millage rate and the change of that and the tax bracket and whatnot. So that was a topic of conversation there, and kind of staying on the financial side, I guess. Some questions about the ESSER or the COVID money funds has been asked, and obviously those are going away.
Yes.
So as a school system, you know, we were able to use those funds and do great projects for our
Yes.
kids and our buildings with $2.5 million to fine art programs all
Yes.
around, band uniforms, science labs, art kilns, music instruments, a lot of things that our school system and students needed. Those were great. We allocated those and used them well, but they are running out. So can you talk a little bit about the plan there and how we're going to continue using resources?
Yes, and you know, we had the ARPA funds, we had the ESSER funds, and those are, and I like what the lady said in our teacher advisory committee yesterday, are those COVID money. Yeah, basically that's what it is, and that's what I call it. The COVID money that we received will be ending in May of 2024. That money's basically gone. A lot of that money went into funding interventionists and coaches. Okay. And so we have already made the commitment, we being the Floyd County Board of Education, for this next school year to continue funding the interventionist coaches. So those positions will continue in the school system for next year. Now, some of the things that we've spent money on, like we've talked about the playground equipment, the digital signs, that's just the tip of the iceberg, really. So that money we're going to have to get used to not having now. But the positions that were with the COVID money, we're going to keep. So, and this is hopefully something we will continue, not only the upcoming school year, but as we go forward. That will be based on our budget and how good of a financial condition we're in.
And based on our budget, you did mention yesterday that as you're looking at the ESSER funds going away and looking at our budget and how to utilize those resources, you mentioned we're in great standing, and that's great news, or good standing. That's good news for our system, and that's because you and our district have been good stewards of our resources and our general fund.
Yes. Now, our general fund and overall financial condition in the school system is wonderful right now.
Good.
That ties into decisions that have been made. And while I've been superintendent, we've closed McHenry, we've closed Cave Spring and Glenwood. And that helps us because that cuts down on our expenses to run the school system. Kind of like at your house, when you cut expenses, then you're able to save, money and put it in the bank, and that's kind of what we're doing. So we feel good as we go forward. We have many things we plan on doing as we go into the next year or two. SPLOST 5 is what we're in right now. It ends on December 31st. SPLOST 6 will start on January 1. So that's the next SPLOST where we've already front-loaded some of that money because the football fields and the track and all that stuff, we actually took out of the general fund to build and fund those projects, but we will be collecting money for those starting on January 1. It gets a little bit confusing,
Yeah.
but long story short, we've got money and we're in great financial situation right now.
Great to know, especially perfect timing with those ESSER funds running out and knowing that we are in great shape there. So, all right, moving right along. Still around kind of the money and supplement. When looking at the special education supplement, it's currently $500 for special education there. Can you talk a little bit about where that supplement comes from and what else goes into the funding of classified employees such as the special education, maybe paras, or where the supplements go?
Yes, now our special ed teachers do get a local supplement that comes
Okay.
from local funding. This is not a state funded supplement.
Okay.
It's funded locally and it is $500 and it has not increased in years, but what we have increased is the total number of special ed teachers. So we've increased that, and of course that costs the school system money. So as far as looking at that supplement, well, sure, we can look at it, but my perception would be we look at the total supplement for the school system as far as local supplement goes, which affects all certified personnel. We're currently at 8%. We're considering upping that percentage for next school year. So that's the way I'd rather go with that rather than just giving it to one group. Let's look at everyone as far as certified teachers go. So that's my perception on that for right now. Let's also remember that starting in January, classified employees, our parapros, and I'm not going to hit all of them, our parapros, our bus drivers, our facilities people, our lunchroom ladies, our secretarial staff, our supportive administrative staff, all those people are classified employees. Their insurance is going up $250 a month in January, and within the next year to year and a half, it'll go up almost $600 to $1,580 a month, and it will increase the amount of money we're spending on insurance to $2.5 million a year for classified. Certified employees, we get reimbursement from the state. Classified, we don't. So those are costs we have to factor into our budget, and that's a big increase for insurance.
Right.
So,
Okay, and that all makes sense. It's weird because I know we've had this conversation and I didn't know before, so I'm sure a lot of our staff members don't realize what all goes into that and
Yes.
how many factors play into. So thank you for that explanation. A couple of facilities questions. So,
Sure.
The air condition in the schools, can we talk a little bit about that? I know there's some teachers wanting it warmer than 74 degrees in the classroom since it's getting a little cooler. But I know that there's a policy and a format we have to abide by
Yes,
there.
we are implementing a energy management program, and we've actually hired an employee who checks all the schools, and they go out, and they don't necessarily go out during the school day. They go out at different times to check thermostats. They go out at night to make sure lights are off. Those kind of things. It's kind of what I would refer to as common sense kind of approach. Now, we're not necessarily looking at cutting off any kind of heating and air during the school day, of course, but on weekends and at nights when it can be turned off or turned down, not necessarily turned off, those are things we're looking at. As far as giving each individual teacher the control over the thermostat to go up to whatever level they wanted to go to or go down, there's a range that we're in there, and the heat is at like 74 is about where we have it set. But as far as giving that option to each and every teacher, we really can't do that.
Okay. Sounds like the conversation I have at my house. I'm always cold, so my husband and I go back and forth of, don't touch the thermostat, don't touch it. So very similar description there. Okay, at Armurchie Elementary, the gym there, and I believe there's a couple of schools that the gym's disconnected from.
Yes, there's several of them.
Okay, but this question was specific to Armurchie Elementary. Is there a plan or any way that it could be connected to the main building to, protect from, I guess, weather and class change in that regard?
Could we do that? Yes. Financially speaking, I don't think it's feasible because then we have to close in a big area.
Right.
And Armurchie Elementary is not the only one that has that issue. When we look at other schools across the school system, right off the bat, I think of Pepper Primary. Their gym is actually in another building across the street there. And it's just not feasible for us to do that everywhere. In some of our schools, the gym is connected. Armurchie Primary, it does have the gym inside the building. So I don't think that's financially feasible at this point, although I understand where they're coming from. But that would not be a building priority for me.
Okay. Out of district, there was a question which kind of opened up a great conversation yesterday in our teacher advisory.
Yes, it did.
There was a question about out of district, are we allowed to charge out of district fees? And the answer was no, and I'll let you explain why. But because the answer was no, it opened up the conversation about charter. So can you answer that and talk a little bit?
Yes, and I am so glad that Sherry Childs was there yesterday in our meeting with our teacher advisory committee. Because in our charter, we basically state we're going to take out-of-district students, and in addition to that, we don't charge for them. So that's part of our charter, so we can't do that. Now, I will qualify that to say that most of our students who come from out of district are value added. They bring something to our school system. Normally, they're smart, they're good students, they're athletes, they're something. And if there are issues with those students that come from out of district, for an example would be discipline issues, they get to go back to their home school. That would be one thing I personally don't think is good.
And that's outlined in the out of district contract, because my child is out of district, and I'm so thankful we're here in Floyd County Schools. But that's something we have to acknowledge as parents, that their grades must stay up, attendance, discipline levels must stay down. So you're absolutely right with the value.
Yes.
So the charter, we cannot do it because we are a charter system.
Exactly. And if we do exclude out-of-district students, we've got to have a reason. For example, academically they're not performing, they have attendance issues, and I go back to the number one thing, if they're discipline issues, they need to stay in their home district.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we've been raving about some of the great things happening in our classrooms, in our schools, with our students. And there's something that's recently happened that was approved at the last board meeting, with Barry, that will help a lot of our current teachers who want to be leaders in the school system one day. And we have a lot of interest there. We also have our leadership training going on with Ms. Hubbard, but kind of thinking about that and the need we will have for new leaders and young leaders in our district moving forward. Talk to us a little bit more about the Barry MOU that we're doing.
And we've always had a good relationship with Barry College and Shorter and Georgia Northwestern and Georgia Highlands. We want a good relationship with all those different colleges in our community, in our county. But we have developed a relationship with Barry College where they're going to reduce their tuition and to be able to get a master's degree and a specialist degree, they're going to cut the tuition from $16,500 to $10,000 a year. And then what we have decided to do, we as the Floyd County School System, is that we're going to have a plan where you can apply to get into this program. If you meet our criterion, Floyd County Board of Education criterion, and the criterion to get into Barry College, the Floyd County School System will pay half of the $10,000 for you. And so we're going to limit that program this first year to 20 students. It'll be 20 of our employees, 20 of our teachers, and then we will look at that as we go forward. But we're planning a 2-year commitment to Barry College so they can kind of calculate how many staff members they need in order to teach that program. But I think this is a good thing as far as encouraging our employees to get advanced degrees, also to go into administration. Also, we are doing our leadership program. Ms. Hubbard is the one who is kind of coordinating that. We're doing training with potential administrators, our teachers who want to be administrators. So that's another part of this. We're looking at ways to retain those employees, encourage them to get degrees, and let's remember, every time you get a master's or a specialist, you get a pay raise. So that helps your pay. So I think it's a great program for us. I wish they'd have been doing that when I was doing this a long time ago.
And it's here local, which
It
is even
is.
better.
It's right here in Floyd County.
Right.
Gosh, I had to drive to West Georgia and University of Alabama and all those places.
I'm sorry about that, just in general.
Yeah, roll tide. But
You had to do that, didn't you? Had to do
I'm just
that
kidding, guys. I just know that.
Notice I might have accidentally now worn Texas colors today, and I do apologize in advance, but
No,
it was a
well,
pure accident. Pure accident.
Okay, well, hopefully we get to play Texas again.
Yeah, that would be good. That would make it fun. All right, sorry, shifting gears a little bit. So we've talked about, and it's no secret that this day and age, it's hard to find workers anywhere.
Yes, it is.
And I know you've experienced that in some things. I've experienced that in just going out. But one of the questions submitted was the issue in trying to find subs, and that we're facing that everywhere's facing that. But specifically to Floyd County Schools, are we doing anything to acknowledge that? Would you like to talk about the shortage of subs and?
Yes, we are not filling all substitute situations as far as teachers being out. Now, I did talk with Stacey Hardy yesterday, and we're hitting right in the range of 85%, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Overall, when you think about that, instead of, we'd like to be at 100, but we're
Right.
at 85%. And based on conversations I've had with other school systems, some of them are a lot lower than that. They cannot find subs at all. Now, what we are looking at, we talked about this, as far as long-term subs, that's something that's a little bit different. We do want qualified long-term subs. We're going to increase the pay for long-term subs.
Okay.
So I think that might help, but I still think we're going to struggle to fill all those daily absences as far as teachers go. So those are things we're just working on. We'll have to kind of see how that plays out. But the long-term subs I'm very concerned about, because you get where we have people on leave and we have them that are out on maternity leave, or their parents are sick, or whatever it might be, on extended leave. We really want good qualified people in there teaching those kids over 3 or 4 week period, instead of having one teacher one day or sub today, different one tomorrow, those kind of things. We're looking for qualified people to fill those positions.
And that matters. I mean, I was a teacher, and unfortunately I went out with COVID my very first year, day 2, and I came back from different subs being in there. I was out for 2 weeks, and I had to completely start over. So
yes,
different situation, that matters for our students, and,
it does,
and consistency. Just like with me, I need a schedule. So for our students, so off of that, and there was a suggestion submitted that actually was really interesting, and I know we've talked about it, and kind of to mark an incentive for teachers to make sure they're at work every day, to kind of help with also the sub thing. I'll kind of give everyone a background on what was suggested and what we've talked about. So the suggestion was as a motivation for attendance and being on time, to kind of go in with our policy as well. Maybe looking at after Memorial Day, because the way our calendar falls, we cannot be completely done with post-planning and end of the year before Memorial Day, unless we started school with students like the middle of July.
Right.
So moving forward, the calendar committee looked at that. So moving forward, we're going to have those post-planning after Memorial Day. But the suggestion was saying if teachers are at school 100% for one semester and then both semesters, they could possibly be done that last day of school and not have to come back those post-planning days if they, met the requirements that would be put in place. Talk a little bit about that. I know it's not set in stone, but it is something that interests you.
That was the first time I'd heard that when we were talking about it for the Teacher Advisory Committee.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah.
Now, in order to implement that, I have to have board approval.
Correct.
I can't do that without their approval. And I think we would have to start this at the start of a school year, not
absolutely.
midterm, although I still think it's a good thought. So that's something we can consider. Certainly, I'd have to run that through the school board to make sure they're on board with that as far as supporting that. But that is certainly something we will consider for next school year. I really think it's a great idea.
And I think this is just a great example, and we said this in the last podcast in Teacher Advisory, but this is why we do these things. I mean, the teachers are in the weeds of it every day, and they see it, and this is why we do it, because we want to hear these great things from them.
Yes.
you be able to make those decisions that best benefit them and ultimately benefit our students. So I
Yes.
love that, and so I'm glad we were able to.
I think that's a good one, and we're certainly going to run that through our school board to make sure they support that. But I thought that was a great idea.
Yes, absolutely. So looking at the calendar, kind of mentioning that, a couple of questions have been brought up about a neighboring school system. I believe maybe Rome City has implemented this year mental health days, which is essentially a digital learning day, a couple of days throughout the year. Obviously, mental health these days is something that we acknowledge and is happening worldwide in a lot of different
it is.
Different factors. But for Floyd County Schools, is a mental health day going to be considered, and why or why not?
Okay, so I have the same concern that you have about mental health, and we're certainly aware of those situations. Stacy Hardy, our Executive Director of Human Resources, are looking at ways that we can address that. There's some resources through the Georgia Department of Education that she's going to push out as far as addressing those kind of issues. But I'm also going to be honest and tell you that digital learning to me is a total waste of time. So we're down to 176 instructional days with kids. I am not in favor of reducing any more of those days. Teachers are on contract for 190. So that means we're implementing 14 planning and professional development days per year. So at this time, I'm not in favor of adding any other days where we don't have students in school.
And that was a recent addition that you did. You listened to some, I believe, some feedback about needing more time for planning and those professional learning. So last year you implemented 2 additional planning days each semester, which is why we're now down to 176.
Yes, and some of that professional development ties into the literacy law.
Correct.
And the science of reading, our letters training, and that's going to be done on some of those days. We're going to be mandated by the new literacy law to implement some of these programs. So this gives us a chance to train our teachers. They can do their training, and then I don't have to worry about having subs in the classroom and those kind of things. So I think it's something we need to do at this time. Although long term, I'm going to be honest, I want to go back to a 180-day school year. But I don't want teachers to jump up and start saying, "Oh, he's changing it." No, I'm not changing it. That's on down the line after we do our training and everything.
Okay, and then you mentioned Ms. Hardy, and she shared with our teacher advisory the resources that she has and that she's shared, and she's also open for suggestions. She's looking here locally about partnerships that could better help our staff members in the mental health world and conversation.
Yeah, she is researching ways that we can do that. Certainly, we would love to partner with local hospitals and support staff that could help our teachers and all staff members.
Yes, absolutely. So we mentioned the strategic plan, and one of our huge topics in that is communication and effective communication. And there are lots of things that, we've been working on and talking about, and there's some effective communication training coming that will, highlight a lot of what we need to do together to improve that piece and to align with our strategic plan. But I'm bringing that up because a lot of that kind of goes with these next couple of questions and where we are with that. So the first one that I would like to talk about is the dress code policy and what exactly that is. Now, I know that us females, we know all about our fashion, and there's all sorts of different pants that could be business casual, thank you Sheen, different colors, different materials. So there's lots of options to choose from there, but talk to us a little bit about, simply the whole reason the dress code policy was put in place and why that matters to you. Now, I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are not going out and you're not being a jean police and saying, are those jeans? Are those not?
No, we're not going to do that. I have no, motivation to do that. I no desire to do it. That might be a better way to do that.
But the dress code simply was put in place, and the expectations are.
Okay, so we have talked about this over the years because during COVID, we basically said you could wear jeans and a staff shirt, and that kind of evolved into wearing a t-shirt, jeans, and I refer to, and I was corrected yesterday, $2 Walmart flip-flops. And so that is totally unprofessional in my opinion. So we've looked at ways that we can do that and be reasonable as far as wearing jeans. And one of the things we're going to do for the rest of December of 2023, I'm smiling because that's not the rest of the year, it's the calendar year. For the next 2 Mondays and the next 2 Fridays, then the staff members can wear jeans and a staff shirt and normal shoes with that. So I think we're looking at those kind of things, but I do think it's important that teachers look professional. I think that's extremely important. But I also think there's ways, because I think one of the ladies yesterday in our meeting, she was actually wearing denim pants, but they weren't blue.
Correct.
But it did look very professional.
It did.
So I think those kind of things we can consider and talk about. We want to be reasonable, but I also don't want to walk in and find teachers wearing T-shirts that they look like they slept in last night and pants that hadn't been pressed and $2 Walmart flip-flops. I don't want to see that.
And so the bottom line is, and we talked about this in the last podcast, a lot of times we and the teachers are the positive role models our kids see.
Exactly.
And it's hard to just, come in with maybe pajama pants or leggings. And so looking professional, and we know as adults we should be able to know and decipher between the two. And that's why the dress code was put in place. So I think that,
yes, it just goes back to being professional, but I want to be reasonable too.
Correct.
And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't want that to be the main focus of our school system.
Right.
I want instruction and what goes on in the classroom to be our main focus. But I do want our teachers to be professional and look professional.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then kind of off the same type of situation here, the clock-in policy still put in place. The expectation was teachers need to be on time and there for our kids and ready to teach our kids, and that is still put in place.
Yes.
The question came up again, if there's a technical issue. If there's a technical issue, the computer's down, that should not add added stress to you.
No, and I guess a great example was this morning. It was actually down at the BOE. I normally sign in on the back hall by the Coke machine. Well, I did, and a few minutes later, one of the staff members, and I'm not going to call her name, they came in and said, it's not working. I said, okay, it's fine. I know you're here. But we do have times when the system goes down. It is a technology issue. For whatever reason, the internet's down, whatever it is, that doesn't count against anyone. We're not going to fire somebody because the system's not working. Right. Just don't worry about that. And you can let your administrator know. It's just like this morning, that lady came to see me. She said, it's down. I can't sign in. I said, okay, it's fine. So those things don't count against any employees. We're going to be reasonable about it. I do want our employees, all employees, to be on time and follow our policy and procedure. We need to be on time to show our students the importance of being on time. It
all goes back to for the kids.
Yes,
I mean, simply,
being there for kids is what we're for. That's
absolutely.
It.
And then really just to kind of sum all this up, we've had a couple of questions about continued morale. A lot of comments have been they feel really positive energy this year. They're excited about where things are going. They notice a lot of things we're doing. And I have come to you with some crazy ideas. So thank you for the support there. You are always so supportive, and I appreciate it. But we've got some excited things coming to continue to celebrate our teachers who do all the hard work, our staff members, our students, our community. It can't happen overnight, but there are going to be things coming that we can share. One of that is officially our FCS Festival that we're going to have on May 11th, that more details will come. It's going to be a celebration with all of us where we have some exciting news and service recognition, where we honor our teachers who've been here with us 5, 10, 15 years, our retirees. A lot of great, exciting things that I know you're working hard with, that it's coming, everyone, but just give us some time. It takes more than a couple of weeks or even a couple of months to implement those, but we do notice it. You notice it. They're important. And we have some celebrations coming.
Yes, and I want to share this, and I sincerely mean this. I think you've done a wonderful job with that. At times I don't know if I should say I lose focus of the fact that we have great employees doing great things and that we need to recognize that. So I appreciate so much that you brought more of an emphasis and focus on that.
Well, thank you. And I truly appreciate you supporting me and realizing that and just letting us celebrate who we are and what we do every day. So thank you. And speaking of, Mr. Williams, I'm not sure if you can zoom in a little bit, but I would love to just point out this amazing tie that Dr. White has.
We got Daffy Duck on here, Bugs Bunny, Tasmanian Devil. We got all the cartoon characters on here for today.
For Christmas, but this is a serious question. This might be a deal breaker, Dr. White. You've got them on your tie. Did you ever see Space Jam?
No, I didn't get to see that.
Oh, well, okay, well, I might have to talk to you about that. So, anyways, anything else you would like to share with our Floyd County Schools family?
Yes, as we get into the holiday season and Christmas, I would like to wish all Floyd County employees and families a happy, Merry Christmas. I hope they enjoy time with their family and just have a great time and come back in January ready to finish the school year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. White, as always. We hope you have a great holiday season. We'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.